This is Catholic Prophecies, section number 9, The Life and Revelations of Anne Catherine Emmerich. You can obtain these books, volumes 1 and 2, from TAN Books or Amazon.com or Books Media. These are the revelations given to her by Jesus Christ. We'll be covering section 9 today, so I want to show you those revelations right now. Remember, this most favored of all mystics of Jesus, she was abounded in virtue and strived for a life of perfection. She had the use of reason from birth and could understand liturgical Latin from the very first time at Mass. During the last 12 years of her life, she could eat no food except Holy Communion, nor take any drink except water, subsisting entirely on the Holy Eucharist. From 1802 until her death in 1824, she bore the wounds of the crown of thorns, and from 1812, the full stigmata of our Lord, including a cross over her heart and the wound from the lance. Anne possessed the gift of reading hearts, and she saw in actual detail the facts of the Catholic belief, which most of us have to accept on faith. The basic truths of the Catechism, angels, devils, purgatory, the lives of our Lord and the Blessed Mother, the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, the grace of sacraments. All these truths were as real to her as the material world. She states, "I was in Rome, in the midst of an assembly of ecclesiastics, presided over by the Pope. There was a question of re-establishing or organizing something, but the resources for it had been squandered. The ecclesiastics were for letting the affair drop, saying nothing could be done, nothing be made of nothing. But the Holy Father was for going on with it. Then I interposed, a good undertaking ought not to be abandoned. If there is nothing, God will supply. The Pope told me that I had a good deal of courage for a nun, but that I was right. Again, I went to Rome. I was very much vexed to find a quantity of the church linen that had been washed in the linen of the last Pope, which had been hanging there ever since I myself had made and brought many pieces. Much of it had never been used, but had lain neglected, laces, ribands, borders torn off, even great holes in them. The ivory crucifixes I had taken there were now minus the figures. Only the crosses and marble stand remained. On one they had even hung a little brass figure. In the midst of the wash, I walked all sorts of distinguished ecclesiastics, taking great notice of the school examination and First Communion dresses, and other unimportant articles, but paying no attention to the church linen, which is hung in such disorder. I was indignant at seeing 5 disgraceful chemises of costly chemises of costly, extravagant style conspicuous among the church linen. I was indignant, for they looked to me indecent and less proper for a bride and bridegroom than for adulterers. The upper part was miserably made, the shoulder straps of coarse packed cloth, but the rest was of the finest, most transparent material, trimmed elaborately with lace and open-work embroidery. These chemises were provided with a hood to blindfold the eyes, as if shame and nakedness could be hidden under this infamous veil. I was deeply afflicted at such a scandal, and grieving over my mutilated crucifixes, I packed the things I had brought in a long basket to take them back with me. One of the ecclesiastics wanted to hinder my packing these things, but another whom I knew took my part. I saw also the deceased Abbé Lambert in the distance. It was the eve of his feast, St. Martin's. I asked him to help me, and asked also why he had not come for me. He laughed, shook his finger, and said, "Did I not tell you? You were still to suffer much," and then he turned away. I insisted on having what belonged to me, succeeded in getting the marble stands of the naked crosses, and packed up everything. I asked how those vile chemises came there. I would have loved to tear them to pieces, and I found that, in compliment to some Protestant gentlemen, they had been received and tolerated. I took one down, and then only did I discover the hood, for first I thought it was a collar. I was so angry that I thought, wait, I'll sew your fine trimmings with cobbler's thread, that people may see what it is wanting to you. The Pope, too, was very indignant at the sight of those shameful chemises. He tore one to shreds. I saw that several cardinals and secular princes were quite displeased with this act. The 5 vile chemises, says the pilgrim, signify the occupation of 5 vacant sees by men who, instead of forming a chaste and lawful union with their bride, the Church, founded on faith and infidelity, rested their adulterous claims upon treason and perjury under the patronage of secular powers, men whose intrinsic vileness had to be veiled by high-sounding expressions, peace, gratitude, toleration. This reminds you of the 5 popes: John 23rd, John the First, John Paul the First, John Paul the Second, the Pope Paul the Sixth, and also Saint Benedict, Pope Benedict, and then what we have now, Pope Francis. The picture could hardly be more striking, both upon this point and upon those that refer to school exhibitions and to theatrical costumes worn at the First Communion. Such stresses banish from the souls of many hundreds of children that piety and recollection, that reverence and devotion so necessary for the worthy reception of the Eucharistic God. Sister Emmerich was so much the more affected by this vision that she knew how important, how decisive for afterlife is a child's First Communion. Again, taken from Life and Revelations of Anne Catherine Emmerich, pages 355 through 357, volume 2. This is authored by Clement Bertano and interpreted by Reverend Karl Schmerger. Approbation was given by Peter Joseph, Bishop of Limburg, and again published by www.tampbooks.com. The copyright was originally made in 1885. This concludes the Revelations of Anne Catherine Emmerich, section number 9. I hope you enjoy getting this regarding the Catholic Church itself, the traditional Catholic Church, and I was overtaken by the popes of the Novus ordo. Thank you.